Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review, and honestly, I'm just going to throw it out here right now. It's definitely more of a rant on Venom. A vehement, just really viciously terrible movie that came out in 2018. It's not I wouldn't say it's the worst film that I've seen this year, or one of the worst films ever made, or one of the worst comic book movies of all time, but it's still pretty awful, and it's still pretty vehement, and it leaves just a really nasty, viscous taste in your mouth after it's over, because there's so much opportunities that are wasted here. There's potential that is just thrown in the trash. And it's one of those films that I didn't have any hopes for going in, knowing that Sony was involved and that this didn't have Spider Man and that it was PG 13. And all the trailers, in my opinion, were terrible. And the film didn't do that much to really ease any of the suspicions that I had for the movie. Now, Venom is directed by Ruben Fleischer, who you might recognize as the director of Zombieland. His direction in this, it just, it's very stock. It doesn't have the same style or flair that his direction did in Zombieland. But I think a big part of that is that this is PG-13. He doesn't have as much to work with. His sandbox is very small compared to the sandbox that he had in Zombieland. And this film has a tone that at times you can tell wants to be R, but it can't go all out because of the PG-13 rating. I don't know why they hired Ruben Fleischer to direct this film if it wasn't going to be rated R. I mean, this is a guy who is known for more for rated R films. I mean, in fact, this is the first film that he directed that had a PG-13 rating, if I remember correctly. Because I think Gangster Squad was R. I'm not 100. I'm looking it up real quick. I don't know why Wikipedia does not list the fucking ratings for films anymore. That's something I really do not understand why they don't do that. So, yeah, it's rated R. Gangster Squad was rated R. 30 Minutes or Less was a rated R comedy. So, yeah, this is a guy who's known for raunchy comedies, or the last film he did was Gangster Squad, which is an R rated gangster movie. This is not in his wheelhouse, and it shows because you have this really disjointed tone where there's jokes about biting heads off, and there's a scene where Venom's supposedly going to bite someone's head off, but you never see anything. And then there's all these things that are insinuated in terms of violence and graphic, stuff like that, and you never see anything. There's never a drop of blood, there's never any gore, there's nothing like that. And it's apparently inspired by the Lethal Protector series of comics. I find that pretty funny because this is not very lethal. This is almost the antithesis of lethal when it comes to the action in this and when it comes to the whole tone of the film. The script by Jeff Pinker, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel, that, in my opinion, is easily one of the weakest things about this film. It is such a flimsy screenplay. It took 3 people to come up with this script that's vaguely based upon the Lethal Protector series. The only thing that really is connected to the Lethal Protector series is the fact that the setting is in San Francisco, just like the Lethal Protector series of comics. And the rest is some cribbing from Planet of the Symbiotes, which was a miniseries where you had all the symbiotes were invading Earth. And so that's what you have here. Because there's no Spider-Man here, So they use the same origin story of Venom, where the symbiote crash lands on Earth, and they even name drop John Jameson. They name drop him in the beginning of the movie. Um, but then they come up with this whole thing called the Life Foundation, and it's a bioengineering corporation, and they're trying to find a way for people to be able to survive in space, and they find the symbiote, and the guy who runs the Life Foundation, of course, is some asshole named Carlton Drake. I mean, even his name sounds like, he's an asshole. I mean, if you don't have the name Carlton Drake and you're a good guy, especially in cinema. So Carlton Drake, which sounds like it's an old stuffy white guy, sounds like it's a performance for someone like Bruce Dern, or I'm trying to remember his name, Bryan Cranston or something like that. Somebody. That sounds like a stuffy old white guy. Guy Pearce in old age makeup from Prometheus. But it's this really young kid, pretty much, and it's just, it's such an epic fail of casting. It really is. Riz Ahmed as Carlton Drake is just an epic fail of casting. This guy is not intimidating. He's not believable in this particular role. I don't buy it. I get what they were trying to go for, young entrepreneur, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But the guy, for the most part, all the script gives him is a ton of exposition dialogue, and he ultimately, he's useless until the symbiote riot takes over him, and then he's just being carried around in the symbiote. Other than that, he's just a dick, but he's not the type of dick that you really love to hate. He's a limp dick. Okay, he's not just a dick, he's a limp dick. And that's the worst type of dick, really. I mean, like, it doesn't get you excited. There's anything about this character that's like, oh man, that, I can't wait for this guy to get his ass kicked. You just want him to get off the screen. You just don't want to see him anymore. You had Woody Harrelson in this, which is, he's only, spoiler, he plays Carnage. Carnage's alter ego, Cletus Cassidy, in a mid-credits scene, and that was just weird. Woody Harrelson and foofy little orphan Annie hair. It was, I don't know what that was about. He's got a fucking perm and shit. But why didn't Woody Harrelson play Carlton Drake? That's a much better casting choice. I don't really see how Riz Ahmed was the best choice for this character. I really don't. I just had to bring that up because that's one of the things that really sticks in my craw with this film is how pathetic the villain is, and how that's a really big problem with a lot of films like this nowadays. Villains that either are too sympathetic, like I think her name was Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp, or there's nothing to them. They're just invisible, like Riz Ahmed's Carlton Drake. And even when he was, even Riot, even the symbiote Riot's just some generic looking CGI monster. There really wasn't much to it other than, oh look, it can create weapons with its hands. It can create different types of weapons and shit. Oh, like the T-1000? It even kind of looked like the T-1000 because it had the fucking silvery metallic look to it. But anyway, going back to the script, the scene of the crime, so to speak, you have Jeff Pinker, Scott Rosenberg, Kelly Marcel, and the plot line just involves with this rich guy wants to go to space, the symbiotes fall to Earth, there's this whole thing about Riot, which apparently flew into some Malaysian chick and then she's traveling cross country to try to get to the US so it can eventually let loose onto our main villain, so you can have so we can actually have a reason to be there other than just be an asshole who gets Eddie Brock fired from his job. And there's even a scene where the symbiote actually goes into a little girl, and it's just like, okay, all right. And this is one of those things where that whole part with the riot symbiote in Malaysia felt like it was a completely different movie. Like, why was that there? Is it just pandering to the Asian audiences? Is that what that is? So then you get to San Francisco and you have Eddie Brock, and he's this no nonsense reporter, and he's in a relationship with Michelle Williams' character, who, in my opinion, is a very I'm trying to think of the right word. Definitely a substandard character as Anne Wying. Like, it's just one of those characters that she's paper thin. She's the love interest, and that's it. That's all she's there for. She's the love interest. And I personally felt the love interest, the whole love aspect, the relationship between her and Eddie Brock was completely unbelievable. I didn't buy it. And I didn't buy why they broke up either. She knows what she knew. She had to have known what she was getting into. She was dating this guy. He was known for taking chances and taking risks as a reporter. He does it. She's been with him all along throughout all of this. I get it. She's trying to get him to stop taking risks, but come on, that's who he is. And he takes another risk and goes for the jugular in an interview with Carlton Drake, and it ends up costing him his job, and she gets fired too because of how powerful Carlton Drake is. And then she breaks up with him. And of course she gets back to, or I don't know if she gets back together with him again by the end of the movie or not. But still, it's one of those things where they're definitely gonna, patch things up. And it's one of those things where I just didn't buy this relationship. And a big part of it was how poorly written it was. And also the performances of Michelle Williams and Tom Hardy. I didn't buy that they were in love with each other for 1 second. They had zero chemistry. There were no sparks that flew when they were on the screen together. So that was a big problem. That's a big chunk of the story of the script, is this love interest subplot, which goes nowhere because I don't buy the two of them being in love with one another. So why should I care if they get back together again? And that just, honestly, that just kills the pacing a lot of the time, because it's doing this whole love interest thing and it doesn't work. And then like a lot of scripts lately, for some reason, they take their sweet ass time building up and the slow burn thing, but then they don't really build up too much of anything in the end, because you have, I would say there's one action sequence in this entire film that I thought was decent, which is the sequence where Venom attacks a bunch of SWAT guys at the newspaper building. That was a pretty cool sequence. But what was it seemed pointless in the whole scope of the story. Why was the SWAT team called to a break-in at a newspaper building? Why would a SWAT team be called to that situation? That doesn't make any sense. Why wasn't that just Carlton Drake's personnel, his men, his army that showed up because they heard something that Venom was going to be there? So that's why Eddie's going to be there. So that's why they showed up. That makes a hell of a lot more sense than just some random ass fucking SWAT team. And if it is his men, they didn't establish that it was his men. disguised as SWAT officers. But that's just a little thing. But it adds up in the end, though, because you have that one bombastic action sequence, and then not much of anything after that. There's like a little scuffle in the forest, and then there's the finale with just CGI bullshit between Venom and Riot that did nothing for me. And that's all you get. I mean, you have the first action sequence is technically the car chase, or a little bit of fisticuffs, I guess. Some fighting back and forth between Eddie Brock and some people. But it's not much of anything. You see much better fight choreography in Upgrade, for instance, which has a similar plot line and a similar dynamic with the whole voice in the head thing. I guess what the writers were trying to go for was like a Ren and Stimpy thing, which I really do not understand at all. I guess Tom Hardy, yeah, he was drawn to the duality of the characters, and he compared the two to Ren and Stimpy. That by itself is a huge red flag. That's a huge issue. Your lead is comparing Venom to Ren and Stimpy? I mean, come on. So that's stupid. I like Ren and Stimpy, but no, not in a Venom film. And that explains why the tone is so off. It's trying to do this dark stuff, but then also trying to do this silly shit. And there's a scene that perfectly exemplifies this, is where Tom Hardy is tweaking out because a symbiote is inside of him, and he goes to goes to a restaurant where his ex-girlfriend is, and he's trying to tell her about everything, and da 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 da, because he went to the Life Foundation, and there's some fucked up shit going on, and he's acting like he's on drugs, and it just comes across as very comical, but not in a good way. Like, it just comes across that like this is a joke, and I'm not laughing. And then it ends with him diving into a vat of lobsters. Well, not really a vat of lobsters. I think a lobster tank, and like eating raw lobsters and looking around like, yeah, no, it's just like, come on. That's just silly. It's not funny. And you have this is the same film that has stuff where Venom is talking about biting heads off, and actually does bite someone's head off, but in a PG-13 way. But then in the same time, there's a line of dialogue where he's talking about turds in the wind, and it's this script sucks. You have too much padding with a love story that goes nowhere. You have the overall main plot of the Life Foundation trying to use a symbiote from outer space to help people live in space, which I get it, but why are we going to space? It's only explained away as the fact that, oh, we're gonna die soon because of global warming. Like, wow, that's I mean, yeah, global warming is definitely a thing right now, but it's a bit of a stretch. It's like in a few years, we're all gonna, bake to death, and we're gonna have to find a fucking way to fly off into space and live in space somewhere. It's not even clarified that they want to live on a planet or not. It's just space. At least that's how I saw it. I mean, you can't blame me. I was spacing out for most of this runtime because it's so sluggishly paced. There's not really much of any investment in it, in the story. Why should I care? Oh, Carlton Drake's an asshole. It'd be nice to see him get his comeuppance. Yeah, but he's not the type of asshole that I love to hate. I just want him to go away. Tom Hardy's character, Eddie Brock, he's not really that likable. I thought Tom Hardy's performance was okay. It was better than I thought it would be, but it was average at best. If you ask me, I would swap the leads between Upgrade and Venom. I would give Tom Hardy the Upgrade lead and cast the guy who played the lead in Upgrade in Venom. I think that role he fits this role a lot better than Tom Hardy does, because Tom Hardy can't do an American accent to save his life. It sounds so off kilter, so strange. And at times it cuts in and out. Like I just did not buy it at all. He's supposed to be a New Yorker, but I don't know what accent he was going for. Whatever it was, it just wasn't effective. Unlike Hugh Laurie, who can seamlessly have an American accent, Tom Hardy cannot do that. He really needs to stop taking these roles as Americans. And no offense to him personally, he just can't pull it off. Period. You can play an American who, he was in Britain before, but then he moved to America. Like, he can do that kind of thing, but like a New Yorker, somebody that's actually born and raised in the United States, he can't fucking do that to save his life. So, and then in terms of the other cast members, there really isn't much of anybody else to really write home about. There's one actress who I was shocked that she was in this, to be honest. Jenny Slate plays a Life Foundation scientist named Doris Girth. And Jenny Slate you might recognize as an actress who was in a lot of comedies. She's this comedy actress. She's known for doing comedies and voice actor work and and sketch comedy and stuff like that. And she's cast in this role where she plays a scientist, and to be honest, I was pretty surprised. I thought she did a decent job. I thought that she was better than I thought she would be in the role. I thought she was just going to be this goofy comic relief character, but no, she played it straight and was one of the few characters that I did not mind in the end. At the end of the day, though, she gets killed, of course. Um, and then you have like this guy named Treese, who's like the main villain, and this guy might as well just be a piece of cardboard with a buzz cut or something. Like the just complete cardboard character. He's just your typical lame ass henchman, just lame ass henchman. Just remove the henchman part. It's just lame ass. And Dan Lewis is another character who gets a good chunk of screen time, played by Reid Scott, who's Anne's new boyfriend, and it's also a very nothing character. And there's so many bits in this that are trying to be funny, but it just comes across as just awkward. The sequence in the restaurant, the moment where the symbiote flies out of Eddie Brock, because it was reacting to I think a CT scan or something, so the sound, and it flies into a dog, and of course it's a little dog, a foo-foo dog, and then the stuff with the turd in the wind at the end, of which I don't. You'll be this nameless, faceless little thing, like a turd in the wind. It was bad in the trailer, and it's just as bad in the film. And there's this constant back and forth thing where Venom, the symbiote, is offended when it's called a parasite. I'm like, that's your humor? Parasite? Yeah, it's just like, oh, Venom is offended now because you used a certain word to describe him? Fucking hell. I'm trying to think of anything else in terms of, the overall film that I could think of that's worth mentioning. Oh, the sequence where Michelle Williams shows up as she has a symbiote and it's a female Venom. I didn't mind that because I like the character Shriek, which I believe is the female one of the female symbiotes, and I was Well done, I thought. It was a nice. I thought it was just going to be the stupid dog was going to show up in the forest and the symbiote was going to fly out and save Eddie Brock, but no, it was Michelle Williams who had the symbiote. So I thought that was actually a nice touch, and it was something different. And it wasn't something different that was totally terrible, like the dog or the restaurant scene or Turd in the Wind. And I guess Venom starts out as like he's bad, but then before the climax, all of a sudden Venom is like, "No, I'm good. I don't want to invade the Earth. I want to stay here. I want to save the Earth." This is like a very, I mean, as origin stories go, the reasoning for Venom staying on Earth and saving us all is very flimsy, extremely flimsy. And no, I didn't really find this to be a fun film either. I know a lot of people feel that this is a fun movie, a popcorn flick. I don't understand it, but to each their own. I mean, I have no issue if anyone found this to be a fun movie. I didn't find it to be that entertaining or that fun. Most of the time I was just bored because it took forever to get anywhere. There was one or two decent. The chase scene was. There were some moments to it that I thought were kind of fun. It was nice to see that there were actual the real cars were actually crashing and it wasn't all done behind a green screen. But then there's the stupid jokes and the bad tone where it's trying to be dark humor, but it's PG-13. You have the tired, just really cliched shit, like the next door neighbor's playing his music too loud, and as soon as Eddie Brock gets the symbiote, he scares him, and he turns his music down. I saw that coming a million miles away when I saw that particular sequel. I'm tired of seeing that scene, to be honest, in films. That's one cliche that really just should. I don't even think we even need to be doing that anymore. It is that cliched. It's not one of those cliches where it can still kind of work. That's just like, come on, let's just stop with that shit already. The neighbor's playing his music too loud. Oh, somebody gets superpowers. They're gonna tell him. They're gonna tell him what's what. Give me a fucking break. And then you have a climax which is lackluster. It fits for a very lackluster, fairly forgettable movie. I don't know why this movie made almost $900 million worldwide. This Why did Venom make not over nine? Why did this movie make close to $900 million? I mean, I rant about and I talk about lowered expectations, and with a good chunk of audiences today, and this shit making close to $900 million in the box office is a prime example of why I think the way that I do. Like, this is lowering the bar. This is below the bar. Like, I don't understand why so many people paid to see this bottom of the barrel bullshit. And you take a character who is arguably one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies, and you don't have Spider-Man alongside him, and we still have not seen the Venom saga done the right way on screen. They fucked it up in Spider-Man 3, and here they can't have Spider-Man, so they try to do their own thing, and there are some interesting ideas here, but it doesn't work because you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. Because the reason why Venom exists is because Eddie Brock and Peter Parker had this rivalry, and Peter originally had the symbiote. He gets it off him because it's starting to corrupt him, and then the symbiote finds Eddie Brock, and they become a perfect match. And Eddie uses the symbiote to get revenge because Peter fucked him over. Peter screwed him. What is the impetus here in the story in this movie? What is the main reason? There's nothing. It's just Eddie Brock goes into the Life Foundation and finds one of his homeless friends, and he gets the symbiote. The symbiote jumps out of a homeless friend because the symbiote apparently can only attach to certain people, otherwise it'll die. It'll eventually die. And Eddie Brock just happens to be one of those people. The connection between the symbiote and Eddie Brock was symbiotic. Legitimately symbiotic in the comic. In this film, it's just random happen chance. It's like when what's his name Sean found the Guyver unit in the Guyver movie, where he just stumbles into the Guyver unit and gets his, he just becomes a superhero. That's exactly what happens here. It's the same fucking thing. It's just a lazy origin story, and it really takes away the strongest aspect of Venom's character. And it's frustrating because I like Venom, but this isn't really Venom. This is some other fucking thing. And I just wish that Sony just made their own film that wasn't called Venom, that had its own sort of spin on Venom, and it was a different sort of thing. Like maybe call it Prototype or something, or just do something different with it. Instead of trying to have a Venom movie where he doesn't even have the spider on his chest, which is one of the most iconic aspects of Venom's look, is like the black suit and then the white spider. Nope, not there, because Spider-Man isn't a part of this origin story. So you just have this really, it just looks like, just this roided up ink blot with sharp teeth and a long tongue. Might as well just be a giant walking turd. So, part of me, I really would like to see Marvel do some animated films like what DC is doing. I would love to see that from Marvel. I would love to see some TVMA, R-rated animated films. I'd love to see an adaptation of the Venom saga done the right way. Not this way, which is just, it hurts. It hurts to watch. It hurts to see. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, you have the opportunity for a Venom film. Why didn't Sony just make a deal with Marvel, with Disney, and have like a 10 to 15 minute opening sequence that establishes the connection between Eddie Brock and Spider-Man, and then it's just a direct adaptation of Lethal Protector or something like that. And it's R-rated. That's another thing. This should have been rated R. This should have been Sony's answer to Deadpool. But instead it's PG-13 and it's watered down and it's bullshit. I really don't know what else to say about Venom. Except I really wasn't a fan of the film, as you can see. Tom Hardy's performance was average at best. No one else in the cast really stood out to me. Jenny Slate surprised me, but it wasn't like it was a great performance. Riz Ahmed was a nothing character, and he delivered a nothing performance. The CGI at times of the Venom suit was fine, but then the stuff with Riot at the end was the opposite. The climax was a clusterfuck and really just did nothing for me. I mean, that's a prime example that it did nothing for me. And at the end of the day, I mean, even Eminem's song didn't really do anything for me either, that played at the end credits. And I like Eminem, and this is just not really that great of a song from him. It's really not. The lyrics were pretty shitty. The hook was it was just, I don't know. I wasn't really a fan of the song either. When you get hit with the venom, you're like, Yeah, when you get hit with the venom, it's like a turd in the wind that just blew around and then it hits you in the face. And you're left with nothing but the stink, the rotten stench of this film just permeating through every pore of your body. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to say about Venom except if I were to rate it out of 5 stars, it gets 1 out of 5 stars. There's like one action sequence, part of the chase, a few little elements here and there, but other than that, there's nothing else that I can really say I liked about the film that would make me want to go back and watch the movie. Um, and it's a shame because a Venom franchise could have been really cool, but this isn't it if you ask me. This is not it. This is the type of shit that it just seems like Sony just did it because Venom is a popular character and we'll shit out a turd, we'll slap Venom on the title, and then it'll sell millions of tickets. And that's exactly what fucking happened. And don't expect any more effort from Sony in the sequel that will happen. Trust me, they're just going to do the same lazy, tired crap. They're not going to put that much of effort into the sequel either. I'd love to be surprised. Maybe there'll be one of those sequels that'll be better than the first movie. I don't know. That being said, yeah, this film just has a multitude of problems for me, from the story, from the characters, from the tone of the film, from the pacing, um, from the way it's adapting the source material. It just checks off the laundry list of just crippling, debilitating issues. But anyway, I don't know what else to say about. I mean, I've already said that, but I mean, I really, this time, I really don't have anything else. I'm all ranted out about it. I got no more venom in me for Venom. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I will see you later. See ya.